evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Azam Khan. Here a look at tonight's top stories. Dozens of passengers escaped serious injuries in a bus crash in Lai Chi Kok. President Xi Jinping prepares to meet Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in Moscow. And UBS agrees to purchase rival Credit Suisse amid guarantees from the Swiss government. Traffic on one of Hong Kong's busiest thoroughfares was disrupted for hours today after a double-decker rammed into a central divider near Lai Chi Kok. Dozens of passengers were trapped after the accident, but escaped serious injuries. Janice Lowe reports.
Dashcam footage captured the moment the double-decker veered off course on Ching Cheng Road near Lai Chi Kok Park at around 9:30 this morning. After wiping out the crash barrier, the bus mounted the concrete divider before coming to an abrupt stop. With the bus tilting to its right, there was danger it could tip over. A separate video taken shortly after the accident showed some passengers escaping through the rear emergency exit, but many remained stranded on the upper deck. They could only sit tight as firefighters secured the bus with steel ropes. For extra insurance, a fire engine was parked next to the bus. Then, one by one, the passengers were freed from the wreckage. Most of them suffered minor injuries, but some, like this elderly woman, was bleeding. Many received first aid on the roadside, while others were shaken from the ordeal. I have no idea what happened, said this man. I fell onto the ground and sprained my ankle when the bus crashed. Another woman who was unhurt recalled hearing two loud bangs. This lady who sat in the front row of the upper deck said the bus was traveling at a normal speed before the accident. She said everyone remained still in their seats, knowing sudden movements could cause the bus to tip over. 62 people were eventually rescued, including 58 from the upper deck. 48 people, including the bus driver, were hospitalized for various injuries, but none of them life-threatening. Lai Chi Kok Fire Station Commander Leung Kin Ming said many passengers suffered cuts or neck sprains. The 54-year-old driver was later arrested for dangerous driving. KMB said he began his shift at 6:40 a.m. and was on his second trip to Chin Wan from Chang Kwan O. He had more than 2 years of experience driving Route 290A, while the bus only passed a regular inspection last week. Crane trucks were called to the scene to lift the double-decker back to the road before it was towed away at around 2 p.m. The accident paralyzed one of Hong Kong's busiest thoroughfares, with westbound traffic stretching back to Wong Tai Sin some 6 kilometers away at one point. Janice Lowe, HKIBC.
A former policeman was jailed for 10 months for publishing hate speech towards a colleague who died in her line of duty. Chui Chun Man was earlier found guilty of sedition for mocking Lam Yun Yui on social media. Lam passed away in 2021 during an anti-smuggling operation. Handing down the sentence today, West Kowloon Magistrate Veronica Hung noted the defendant showed no remorse. She pointed out that the 26-year-old, who was since dismissed from the force, insisted that he did not have a seditious intent. He was sent to a prison after a bail request was rejected. President Xi Jinping has landed in Moscow, kicking off a 3-day visit of Russia. He will meet his counterpart Vladimir Putin to discuss matters ranging from the war in Ukraine and economic cooperation. President Xi Jinping arrived in Moscow today ahead of a meeting with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. As Russia faces increasing scrutiny from the Western world, over its invasion of Ukraine, Xi's visit amid the sensitive time could be seen as an apparent show of support for his ally. Beijing so far has taken a neutral stance in the year-long conflict. It called for a peaceful solution, but stopped short of calling it a war or condemning Putin. The foreign ministry said last week that Beijing would play a constructive role in promoting peace talks between Kyiv and Moscow. Xi, meanwhile, called for equal, rational, and pragmatic dialogue to end the battle. While Ukrainian President Zelensky welcomed the proposal, the idea was flatly dismissed by the United States. Outside of the Ukraine conflict, Xi and Putin are expected to discuss topics ranging from regional cooperation to trade. Bilateral trade between the two countries last year fell just shy of $200 billion, not far from the goal set by both presidents when they met in 2018. The trip also comes on the backdrop of the International Criminal Court charging Putin with war crimes in Ukraine. But Moscow has already dismissed the accusations, saying the warrant has no meaning for our country. Taiwan's former leader, Ma Ying-jeou, will be visiting China next week to honor his ancestors and facilitate youth exchanges. His visit was welcomed by Beijing, but opposed by the island's ruling Democratic Progressive Party. Macy Mock reports.
In a historic moment, Ma Ying-jeou announced that he will visit China next Monday. If the trip goes ahead, the former Kuomintang chief will become the first ex-leader from the island to step foot on the mainland in more than 7 decades. Accompanied by a delegation of around 30 people, Ma will visit cities such as Nanjing, Wuhan, Changsha, and Shanghai over 12 days. He will honor his ancestors as the trip is officially purposed ahead of the Qingming Festival in early April. A group of Taiwanese students will also engage in cultural exchanges with their peers across the straits. Xiao Shu-chen, the executive director of the Ma Ying-jeou Foundation, which is organizing the tour, believes such exchanges will ease tensions on both sides. Letting young people learn about each other is far better than purchasing more weapons, he added. But to avoid complicating matters, Ma will stay away from Beijing and not meet top mainland officials. His trip, which came at the invitation of the central government, is seen as a way to offset Tsai Ing-wen's visit to the United States at around the same time. Ma Xiaoguang, spokesman of Taiwan Affairs Office in Beijing, said he is ready to provide all necessary assistance. He echoed Xiao's words that youth exchange is a pathway for a peaceful cross-strait relationship. However, Ma Ying-jeou's upcoming visit was slammed by the Democratic Progressive Party. Taiwan's ruling party wrote on Facebook that Ma's embrace of China has gone against the opinion of residents on the island. A government spokesman confirmed Ma had informed them of the trip, adding authorities will respect his wishes. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
In a historic deal brokered by the Swiss government, banking giant UBS has agreed to take over its ailing rival Credit Suisse for around $3.2 billion. The emergency rescue deal negotiated over the weekend averted a global market meltdown, but steep job cuts are expected. Sachin Katvi reports.
Credit Suisse had been facing financial difficulties for the past 2 years as the once reliable bank was accused of non-compliance and tax evasion in some countries. A gradual exodus of wealthy clients followed by bad investment decisions and internal restructuring resulted in a $7.8 billion loss last year. The collapse of Silicon Valley Bank in the United States was the final straw that broke the camel's back. Shares of Credit Suisse plunged 30% last week after its major shareholder, Saudi National Bank, refused to inject fresh funds. Credit Suisse turned to the government for help, and the Swiss National Bank obliged by offering a $54 billion lifeline. But even that was not enough to shore up the troubled bank. Desperate to avoid a meltdown of the global banking system, Swiss authorities managed to rope in rival bank UBS to take over Credit Suisse.
I mean, I have to state that very clearly. This is no bailout. This is a commercial solution because we have a takeover of UBS. UBS is taking over Credit Suisse. So this is a commercial solution and not a bailout. We really wanted to avoid a bailout for different reasons. The bankruptcy of Credit Suisse would have had a collateral damage, a huge collateral damage on the Swiss financial market, also risk of contagion for UBS and other banks, and also internationally.
According to the agreement, UBS will buy Credit Suisse for around $3.2 billion, about 60% less than what it was worth when markets closed last week. Under the deal, which could be completed by the end of the year, shareholders will get 1 share of UBS for every 22.5 shares of Credit Suisse they own. To further reduce risks, the Swiss government will cover losses worth $10 billion, and the Swiss National Bank will provide a liquidity assistance of up to $110 billion. UBS chairman Com Kelleher said it remains too early to say how many jobs may be cut, although the number is expected to be significant. Sachin Katwi, HKIBC.
Uncertainty surrounding the global banking industry prompted local stocks to head south today. The Hang Seng Index was down 700 points after lunch, before recovering slightly to close 2.6% lower. Banks led the decline, as the Credit Suisse rescue deal was done on the back of not honoring so-called additional Tier 1 bonds, so it could wipe out $17 billion in debt. Similar financial instruments floated by European banks declined in value. Standard Chartered finished 7.3% lower, while HSBC dropped 6.2%. Bank of East Asia and Da Sing Bank were also victims of the fallout, losing 4.5% respectively. Now let's take a look at the markets. Hang Seng Index closed down 517 points. Top 10 active stocks. Tracker Fund was down 53 cents. Tencent was down $4.60. HSBC was down $3.35. AI Insurance was down $3.30. Forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, the euro is at 8.39, the Australian dollar at 5.24. And over in the UK markets, the London FTSE is currently up 21 points. On to the weather now. A mix of sunny intervals and showers tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 22 and 27 degrees. Similar conditions on Wednesday before it gets wet later in the week. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Monday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Azam Khan. Thanks for watching. Good night.